Betrayal does not walk in with a shout. It checks your calendar, learns your habits, and slips in while your coffee cools. My name is Sienna Cole. I am 33. I lead incident response at Monarch Ledger, a mid-sized fintech that promises safety to people who do not have time to read the fine print. I like repeatable processes, verifiable logs, and silence that means the system is healthy. I grew up fixing other people's mistakes in a family restaurant where the ticket printer never stopped. So I built a career where pressure is normal and panic is optional. At 6:12 a.m. the on-call pager tripped. Unusual outbound traffic from a vault subnet that should have been asleep. I was already at my desk with a protein bar and a checklist. I pulled packet captures, traced the path, and felt my stomach drop in that precise way that does not show on your face. The exfil was wrapped in our own monitoring agent, signed with a valid certificate, and routed to an address that resolved to a vendor we did not use. I called security engineering. No answer. I pinged compliance. They were awake and already nervous. At 6:29, our new COO Damon Huxley appeared in my doorway like a calendar reminder dressed in a tailored suit. He smiled as if we were about to rehearse a script he had written. "Talk to me," he said. "Someone tunneled through our agent," I said. "The certificate is good." The job was scheduled from a maintenance runner under my group's change window. His eyebrows went up with polite surprise. "Under yours?" "Yes," I said. "Except I did not schedule it." He nodded with the sympathy people use when they are about to push you under a bus. "We are hours from a board demo. The message to the room has to be control, not chaos." "I am not interested in chaos," I said. "I am interested in provenance." He followed me into the war room. Screens lit the table like a second sunrise. I pulled logs, opened the scheduler, and froze. The job that moved the packets carried my change ticket number. The description was in my style. The cron comment used my shorthand. The approval flag showed one click. Mine. Damon leaned in as if to study the screen. He did not reach for the mouse. "Sienna," he said softly, "tell me why I should not call legal right now." "Because someone used my voice without access," I said. "The only way to sign like this is with an offline token or a clone of my workstation. Both require physical presence." He glanced at the air gap cabinet in the corner. The panel was closed. The seal was intact. "Show me your home desk," he said. "I will, after I lock this down. The runbook says you isolate first." I isolated. The outbound path collapsed. The agent revoked its own trust like a body rejecting a bad graft. I started the forensics dump, mirrored the now dead host, and quarantined 2 adjacent runners that had been quiet too long to be honest. At 7:05, HR scheduled an 8 o'clock with me. The meeting title used neutral words that feel heavy when you have done this job long enough. Damon's name appeared as a required attendee. I called the only person I trust to tell me when I am missing something obvious. Her name is Priya Shah. She runs detection engineering with a relentless kindness that makes people better without making them small. "Either you caught someone using your signature," she said, "or someone is framing you and wants Damon to look righteous." "Which would you bet on?" I asked. "In a company that hired Damon," she said. "The second one pays better." She joined me in the war room with a hoodie and a coffee that looked like it could solve problems by smell alone. We traced the first job to a staging device recently added to the asset list. Its owner of record was a contractor who had never logged into the building. The asset had a physical Mac that belonged to a batch purchase by Supplier 8. Supplier 8 was Damon's favorite phrase in budget meetings. Discreet, fast, competitively priced. Priya pulled the building badge logs. At 2:41 a.m., an all-access badge entered through the loading dock. It was assigned to facilities. At 2:46, a second entry hit the server room camera. The figure wore a cap and a mask and moved with the calm of someone who belongs anywhere he stands. He carried a case the size of a shoebox. He placed it near the runners, adjusted a cable, waited 30 seconds, then left. Priya paused the frame. The man looked up for a blink. You could not see his face, but you could see the corner of a wristband with a white square. White Mint executive guest. Damon watched without comment. He leaned back like a person studying art he intends to buy, then looked at me. "This is not ideal," he said. "But we have to think about outcomes. The board does not want a breach story." They want an integrity story, I said. We set the narrative by telling the truth, not by pinning it on the person who caught it. I am not pinning, he said. I am considering optics. He left with that word hanging like an unsent email. At 7:58, I walked into the HR room and sat across from a lawyer who introduced herself as neutral and a note-taker who did not look up from her keyboard. Damon arrived at 8:01 with a folder. He thanked everyone for their time. He said an unusual job had been scheduled from my environment. He said there were serious questions about process. He said the board slot could not move. He said the company had to show accountability. He said my name with the gentle cadence of someone delivering a weather report that involves evacuation. I have a better story, I said. A contractor asset staged by Supplier 8 under your oversight carried a hardware implant into our runner cage last night. The implant proxied my signatures using cache tokens harvested from a cloned image of my workstation. I have copy timestamps, badge logs, and the vendor invoice to support it. The note-taker stopped typing. Damon's smile did not change. That is how you know he trained it. Do you have evidence or do you have suspicions? He asked. Both, I said. And they point in the same direction. HR suggested we pause to avoid escalation. Damon suggested we stay to avoid rumors. I suggested we pull the Supplier 8 purchase orders for the last 6 weeks and the access logs for the loading dock. The lawyer agreed. Sometimes process is your ally because process cannot blush. While we waited, Priya sent me a message with one line and a screenshot. Found it. The screenshot showed a draft board deck stored in Damon's cloud folder. Slide 12 described a consolidation plan that would sunset my team and move incident response to an external partner. Supplier 8 would lead the transition. The slide date was last week. The pilot line mentioned a controlled extraction of non-production data to validate metrics. I looked at Damon. He was very still. The folder in his hands did not move either. If you needed a pilot, I said, you could have asked. He said nothing. The lawyer looked at the screenshot on my phone, then at him. She spoke with the precise calm of someone who has seen the inside of a courtroom. We will suspend this meeting until the board reviews both narratives. Damon stood. We need alignment at the top, he said. When he left, Priya stepped in. She did not hug me. She is not built for theater. She handed me a small black device the size of a matchbox. What is this? I asked. A dead drop, she said. Open source, unbranded, paid for in cash by someone who does not want procurement to know. I found it under your desk on the zip tie for the power strip. Listening, I said. Recording, she said. It triggered when the pager tripped. The device still held a charge. The storage light blinked twice every second. Busy. Full. Useful. I looked at the war room through the glass. People moved with intent. Someone had decided already. I could either be the person they wrote out of the story or the person who wrote the next part. I put the dead drop in my pocket. I opened a new document and titled it Remainder. 3 rules. Save clean proof off network. Trace money, not emails. Hurt no one who did not swing first. At 9:02, the board assistant called. The chair wanted a quiet briefing in 15 minutes. Damon had already asked for the same. I closed the document. I picked up the pager. I said yes. The board assistant led me to the 12th floor. A glass room with a view meant to remind you how far you can fall. Only the chair Elise Harrow waited inside. She had the composure of someone who never repeats a question. Damon says you authorized a data extraction, she said. I have evidence he staged it and used my credentials to cover it, I replied. And a device planted under my desk that recorded part of it. Her brow lifted a millimeter. You brought proof. I brought enough to make you ask for the rest. She gestured to the table. Sit. Tell me what you know. I kept it clean: timestamps, asset IDs, badge logs, invoice trail, the board deck slide showing his plan to outsource my entire division. She didn't interrupt. She didn't blink much either. When I finished, she asked only one question. Will you testify to this if the board moves forward? Yes, I said. But I would rather contain than burn. If the truth is enough, the company walks out intact. She nodded once. You will hear from us before end of day. Do not speak to press. Do not contact Damon. Do not touch your workstation. Understood. As I left the room, my phone buzzed with a message from Priya. She'd cracked the implant log's outbound pings went not just to the fake vendor address, but to Damon's personal cloud relay. He routed everything through a shell company registered in Nevada 5 months ago. Legal requested the packet captures. I sent them with a signed statement. At 11:20, Damon was escorted out of the building through the service elevator. No announcement. No warning. Just absence. His office door was already locked when I passed by. Priya appeared at my side. You're not cleared yet. I know. You're also not alone anymore, she said, and that was the only reassurance I needed. By noon, HR emailed to cancel all investigative meetings. Further review in progress. That phrase only lands on people who are not the target anymore. I stayed in the war room until the systems team confirmed the implant was fully removed, and the vault hashes matched the audit chain. The clean build went up before the board demo. No packets moved where they shouldn't. 2:07 I finally went home. The apartment smelled normal. I checked the frame under my desk and the gap behind the router. No new devices. But someone had been here to plant the dead drop before. I would not assume the dust was gone just because the mess was visible. I placed the recorder in a metal tin and slid it into the freezer. It was old habit cold buys time, and metal buys silence. Then I opened my laptop and wrote one line in a private doc only I could see. They used my name to build their exit. I will use their exit to build my case. Tomorrow the board would decide the narrative. Tonight I would decide who I became in it. By morning the building felt different. People avoided eye contact for reasons that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with who was no longer there. Elise Harrow's office sent a single line to my inbox at 9:14. Prepare a full internal account. Verbal briefing at 11. No signature, no subject. Priya was already in the incident room when I arrived. She slid a folder across the table. Supplier 8 had 3 shell companies, she said, all tied to Damon. One of them signed 2 contracts under the CFO's blind authorization. Finance is pretending they never saw the signatures. Did you loop legal? I asked. They looped themselves. Someone forwarded the filings before dawn. That meant someone on the inside wanted him gone. Or wanted me useful. At 10:40, the board liaison escorted me to a conference room with no windows and too many leather chairs. Only 3 people sat inside. Elise Harrow, General Counsel, and the head of audit. Elise spoke first. You are not under review. You are under protection until we decide how public this becomes. The words landed with more weight than any apology. Audit slid a tablet toward me. Is this accurate? He asked. The screen showed a timeline starting 3 weeks back. Damon's access logs. A contractor badge printed under false credentials. 2 after-hours deliveries signed with his code. And the cloned image of my workstation pulled from an internal backup. He should not have had rights to touch. I confirmed each item without commentary. Legal spoke next. We need your statement on record by tonight. After that, we move to federal disclosure if necessary. Is he facing charges? I asked. If he tries to walk with anything but a lawyer, yes. The meeting ended with no thank you and no pretense that this was over. But I walked out with my badge still active and my access restored. Back in my office, someone had placed a sealed envelope on my chair. Inside was a temporary clearance letter signed by audit and legal. Below that was a handwritten note with no name. You were not the target. You were the cover. Do not assume he was working alone. I read it once and burned it in the sink. Priya leaned on the doorframe. You look like someone who knows the next fire is quieter. It always is, I said. She handed me a flash drive. Everything the implant touched. In case the board wants proof without filtration. I slipped it into my inner jacket pocket. Not the bag. Not the desk. On me. Before the day ended, I wrote one line at the top of my report. If they try to close the door, I will bring the whole frame down. I did not send it yet. Some truths work better when they arrive without warning. By the next morning, rumors had shape. Damon was officially on indefinite leave, and IT scrubbed his credentials like he never existed. But absence leaves fingerprints and people started guessing. When people guess, they get bold or stupid. Sometimes both. At 8:30, Finance requested a harmless clarification meeting. Victor Lang, interim CFO, waited with a stack of printed ledgers he clearly hadn't read. He smiled like someone trying to pretend he wasn't sweating. "We just want alignment," he said. "Optics matter with investors." "You approved the supplier 8 contracts," I said. His jaw froze, then relaxed like he'd practiced the motion. "Those signatures were routed. They did not pass my desk. You signed one at 2 in the morning from your home IP." He blinked. That was the moment he realized guessing was over. I watched the blood leave his face in real time. Before he could recover, legal stepped into the room. "Nonak, noe palegi." "Miss Hale," counsel said to me without looking at him. "Your briefing has been moved to 10. Audit wants your uncut version." Victor started to speak. Legal cut him off with a glance that could end careers. "You do not speak to her without representation." I left the ledgers on the table. Paper without truth is weight, nothing more. Back in the hall, Priya caught up with me. "They think you leaked to the board," she said. "I didn't have to," I replied. "They were already watching." She gave a half smile. "You're going to outlive all of them." "Not my goal," I said. "I just want the system clean before someone else inherits the mess." At 10 I entered the boardroom. This time there were 6 people. Elise at the head. Audit, legal, compliance, and 2 I didn't know. No one wasted breath on greetings. Elise spoke first. "Your report is thorough. The board will move to terminate Damon with cause." "Good," I said. Legal continued. "The shell entities tied to 2 people in finance. One has already resigned. The other is being questioned by outside counsel before noon." I stayed silent. Compliance slid a folder toward me. "We want you to oversee the rebuild of the security and vendor framework. Report directly to the board until the contract is secured." My pulse didn't change. Authority level? Above division leads. Below executive signatures. You choose your own clearance team. It was not a promotion. It was a test wrapped as an opportunity. "I'll take it," I said. "But I picked my own deputy and I want full access to Damon's archived messages." Elise nodded once. "Done." As I stood to leave, she added, "Be aware. Someone helped him get in. And someone else thought you would fall with him. We have not named them yet." "I will," I said. Back in my office, I locked the door and opened a new document titled Rebuild. I wrote the first directive in plain text. No one touches clearance without dual witness chains. Then I wrote the second. Document every favor they forget they asked for. Before I closed the file, I added a third line meant only for me. If they come for the frame, remove the floor. I shut the laptop and exhaled. One part remained. The part they didn't see coming. The building always got quieter after 6, but that night it felt staged. Security on the lower floors, lights off in finance, legal still awake on 10. I stayed in my office until the cleaners passed twice. When the hallway settled, I opened the flash drive Priya gave me and copied the implant logs to an encrypted offline vault. 1 copy for the board. 1 copy for myself. At 7:42, Elise called. "They're going to deny involvement," she said. "Lang, the contractors, the shells. Damon will claim he acted alone." I leaned back in my chair. "Then they can read their names in the subpoena." She paused. "You understand the board wants this handled internally if possible. They should have thought of that before burying contracts under fake vendors." Silence followed, not resistance. "Your official title will be announced next week," she said. "Interim Director of Systems Integrity. Your clearance is unrestricted. Use it carefully." "I plan to," I said. After the call ended, I walked down to sublevel 2. Storage rooms, dead servers, forgotten archives. The IT lead on night rotation owed me silence from a favor last year. He pretended not to see me enter the archive cage. Damon's off-network relay server sat behind a labeled rack like a ghost with a badge. I pulled the drives, sealed them, and logged the removal under Elise's clearance code. No secrets left behind for someone else to reshape. When I came back upstairs, someone was waiting by my door. Victor Lang. Hands in his pockets. Smile gone. Voice quiet. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "You're still pretending you didn't sign those wires," I replied. His eyes flickered. "You think the board will protect you when they're done?" "I don't need their protection," I said. "I need their records." He stepped closer. You don't know when to walk away. I learned that from men who do, I said. He realized then that the balance was gone. His last card had burned with Damon's badge. He left without another word. I locked the door and opened the report I had not yet filed. The statement was clean, factual, traceable. At the bottom I added one final note. The next attempt will not come through finance. It will come through whoever believes silence is cheaper than truth. Before midnight, I sent the file to audit and legal with a blind copy to Elise. Then I opened a new document, this one only for me. I wrote, "They used my name to enter. They used my access to steal. They planned the exit without me. Now I hold the record of every step they took." I encrypted it, stored it off-site, and shut the system down. By morning, no one would ask if I was staying. They would ask who else was leaving. And I would be there when the door closed.